You never think it will happen to you. One day your baby is there. You heard its fierce heartbeat. The next, the life inside of them, their life inside of you, is gone. It's estimated that around 1 in 5 pregnancies end in miscarriage, but the numbers are vague as most countries don't actually count these losses. I've had one healthy pregnancy, my beautiful boy Rion, and 4 that ended in loss. Two were early miscarriages, and 2 happened much later into my pregnancies, where I gave birth to my tiny babies, River and Ray. I am one of tens of millions of women around the world who have suffered pregnancy loss. And as my work as global health correspondent has shown me many times, I know how lucky I am to have received the level of care I've had. The conversation around pregnancy loss is opening up so much more here in the UK, with things like this beautiful exhibition here in Manchester. But after my losses, it struck me, given how physically and mentally painful miscarriage can be, why aren't we talking about it more? Why don't we know more about why it happens?
So my name's Professor Siobhan Quemby.
My name's Natasha Nakati.
मेरा नाम रुखसाना है.
I've spent the last few months looking into how pregnancy loss impacts families all around the world and how they can be better supported. Why the colour of our skin can affect our chances of having a healthy pregnancy.
I just don't think we're being listened to and heard in the spaces.
Do you think it is about the colour of your skin that?
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
And heard from one group often left out of the conversation.
My wife was near to die.
You know, I'd cry sitting on the toilet because that was the only time I could get to be alone.
The hats knitted lovingly for twins that were never worn. The tiny teddy which nestled next to a tiny baby, born silent. The beautiful shoes bought for stillborn baby Jenny on what would have been her 2nd birthday. This Still Parents exhibition here at Manchester's Whitworth Gallery is the first of its kind, aimed at breaking some of that silence that still surrounds baby and pregnancy loss all around the world. Even the word itself can be problematic. Miscarriage, to miscarry, is defined as to fail to achieve the intended purpose or to fail to reach the intended destination. The focus there clearly on failure. Whatever you call this type of loss, and no matter what point in pregnancy it happens, it can be a life-changing event. For the mums and families who contributed to this exhibition, it's a unique opportunity to acknowledge and reflect on their losses. Most women don't get that chance. We're often told that miscarriage is just a part of life. Move on, try again. It wasn't meant to be. But a recent study suggests millions of women around the world are potentially spending years suffering with undiagnosed and untreated post-traumatic stress after experiencing a miscarriage. And researchers are increasingly looking for new and innovative ways to try and help women and families.
एक miscarriage हुआ सही.
I was very scared. One miscarriage is okay, but then second, third, and after the last one, I lost all hope.
नींद नहीं आती.
I couldn't sleep. I would lay awake and pray to Allah to make everything okay.
I had lost something that I wanted really badly. So I remember one night it was raining outside and I was just in my bedroom all saddened and then the rain just started coming and then from nowhere I started crying. And I cried and I cried.
It was the very hardest time in my life. and I thought something was wrong with me. I was so worried, and I lost my self-confidence, and I was very depressed.
Research carried out at 3 London hospitals suggests nearly 1 in 3 women suffered post-traumatic stress 1 month after a loss. Some women's symptoms improved over time, but 1 in 6 women still had post-traumatic stress after 9 months. Most women are never diagnosed or treated.
Well, the most common symptoms are flashbacks, so people are getting flashbacks of the event, re-experiencing what actually happened to them perhaps. I think it can be incredibly destructive. At the moment, screening isn't happening, and I think people are constantly slipping through the net.
We're in this beautiful meadow. I can see a couple of stags in the distance. This is one potential solution being developed by Professor Bourne and his team to try and make what can be a very traumatic experience more bearable.
This is a virtual reality headset that we are offering women who need to have a procedure to remove pregnancy tissue when they've miscarried, to transport them to sort of a more calm virtual reality world for distraction from the pain and anxiety during the procedure.
Dr. Parker has just started trialling this new kit. She's also doing a study looking into how other activities, like playing Tetris or listening to a podcast, might help.
We're looking to see if brief cognitive task shortly after a traumatic event can target specifically intrusive memories and flashbacks, and whether that can prevent the development not only of those distressing symptoms in and of themselves, but other psychological problems such as post-traumatic stress disorder.
The causes of miscarriage are not well understood. Most happen in the first 3 months of pregnancy, and around half of those are due to genetic or chromosomal issues where the baby would never have survived. Hormonal conditions, blood clotting problems, and some infections can also contribute to higher risks, as can your age and being over 35 years old. But people can reduce their risk of miscarriage by giving up smoking, being a healthy weight and maintaining a balanced diet, and avoiding alcohol. Whilst there are still so many unknowns around miscarriage generally, when it comes to the risk for Black and Asian women, the picture is even more opaque. Black women in particular are 40% more likely to suffer a loss than white women, according to one recent study. How and why is this happening? I wanted to find out. So I've been speaking to women in the US and in the UK, where most of the research on this is underway. Isabel and Paulson are expecting their baby boy next month.
Can you see your baby's face?
It's really emotional. I'm just trying to contain myself now.
They lost their previous pregnancy at 4 months last March. This baby is doing well, and they're being supported by staff at this specialist recurrent miscarriage clinic in Coventry. But the care they received during their previous pregnancy and subsequent miscarriage has left Isabel scarred for life.
The day that we were sure there's something wrong, and I remember being laughed, from one of the staff nurses and saying, just go home. Why do you keep coming? Just take, codeine and paracetamol, you'll be fine.
Within 48 hours of going home, Isabel started bleeding heavily. She was rushed to hospital, but her baby boy died. And why do you feel you weren't listened to, you weren't heard?
Colour of my skin, black skin. It's not from here. You can wait.
There is very little doctors can do to save a baby at this stage in pregnancy, but the feeling of not being listened to is what has stayed with Isabel.
Judah, wakey, wakey.
More than 100 miles away in Hornchurch in Essex, Natasha cradles little Judah. She experienced 8 miscarriages before his arrival, including a late loss almost 5 months into her pregnancy.
Ooh, hello. What's going on? Everything's supposed to be okay. No one tells you that your waters are going to break early.
So that was a massive shock to me, and then to lose a baby and then have to bury a baby, that was just unimaginable.
Natasha says she also didn't feel heard by some clinicians and says urgent research is needed to understand what's going on.
We have been given the problem, we've been told about the problem, but we haven't been given a solution. We're in a Western country, we're in 2022, and we don't have a solution to that. We don't even know what the steps are or the reason why, and it's just really frustrating.
It's not just in the UK where there are these concerns. Like Isabel, these women in the US have also felt belittled and ignored. They call themselves Sisters in Loss.
Hi there. Hi.
It's the name of their organisation, created to help give black women a voice when it comes to maternal health. All have suffered pregnancy loss.
I had my loss at 12 weeks. This was in 2018.
Natrice told me she was inconsolable when she was scanned and told there was no heartbeat.
I just, collapsed. I got sick right there. And then she asked me, "Why are you throwing up? Did you come in here sick?" And I had to explain to her, "Ma'am, you just told me my baby is no longer has a heartbeat." So there was no compassion.
I just don't think we're being listened to and heard in the spaces.
Do you think it is about the colour of your skin that?
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, it really is a struggle all around when it comes to our maternal care.
I've come to Queen Charlotte's and Chelsea Hospital here in West London, which sees many black and ethnic minority patients, to try and get a better understanding of why black women are at a higher risk of having a miscarriage, whether they have underlying health conditions or not, and no matter what their social, economic or educational background. Why does a woman's skin colour affect her chances of having a healthy baby? Dr. Akechi runs the early pregnancy unit here. She's also co-chair of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists Race Equality Task Force.
Unfortunately, black women have a number of factors associated with the risk of miscarriage overrepresented. So, for example, they are more likely to have a number of conditions that puts them at greater risk of miscarriage. But really, on a more significant level, what we hear time and time again is that black women never feel heard in this space. Without addressing the institutional racism where it exists, we will never be able to truly say that all women receive the care that they so deserve.
Back in Coventry, Professor Quemby runs the recurrent miscarriage clinic at University Hospital.
A lot of the patients are understandably very anxious because of their previous pregnancy losses.
She's also a leading researcher in this field, which is notoriously underfunded. She's currently trying to raise money to investigate some of the many unknowns around why black women are at higher risk, including looking into any potential biological factors.
We know, for example, if you're black and Asian, then you handle glucose less well. So we know you're a much more increased risk of gestational diabetes. We also know that the balance of bacteria in your vagina is different in black and Asian women to white women. And we know an imbalance in the bacteria in your vagina has been associated with miscarriage and preterm birth. So that's another area we can look at.
Researchers don't know if black women in African countries, for example, are also at greater risk. The data is simply not collected. There's clearly a myriad of complex and difficult issues at play here. But the longer we don't have answers to some of these key questions, the longer so many women will continue to suffer needlessly. Pregnancy loss can isolate you from those closest to you, especially your partner. Again, there's been very limited research on this, but partners have reported feeling helpless, ignored, and in some cases deeply traumatised. I've been hearing from partners all around the world, starting with Amir Sangal in Karachi, Pakistan.
At first, I did not know what to do because I had never experienced anything like this before.
My wife was near to die. There
was a feeling of loss, like I've lost someone who was my own, but I had to control my emotions.
Amir and his wife Roxana, who we heard from earlier, suffered 3 miscarriages and 1 ectopic pregnancy where the embryo starts growing outside the womb. They now have 2 little daughters, but they said it's very difficult to be open about pregnancy loss.
Our second loss remained between me and my wife. We did not share it with anyone in the family because we felt this is our pain. We need to go through it alone. Our society can make you feel like a loss is your own fault.
Amir is not the only one opening up about his losses. More than 5,000 kilometres away in Malawi, Sisomo Mwadi is on a mission to remove the taboo of miscarriage in Africa too.
You're not supposed to express your grief, not express your pain. You have to be the strong one. The issues also of culture in Africa, especially in Malawi, things like miscarriage are taboo in this part of the world.
In the UK, men who have experienced pregnancy and baby loss are increasingly finding each other and starting up support communities. These men have all lost babies and they share their grief through football.
There's no pressure to grieve. Us playing football and us doing the training is us grieving.
Matt and his wife Lauren have suffered 4 miscarriages.
It absolutely crushed me. I'd go and do some shopping and I'd cry in the car on the way to the shops, or I'd go and cry in the shower, or I'd cry sitting on the toilet because that was the only time I could get to be alone.
You're listening to the Dad Still Standing podcast, and we're about miscarriage, about stillbirth, about baby loss.
2 of the football players have also set up a podcast where they're increasingly hearing from people all around the world.
So we're going to be talking to Raul Navarro Jr. He's one of our followers on Instagram.
Raul's been in touch from California.
To be honest, I didn't have much support at all. The hardest part, I think, is people just want to dismiss it,
Bro, thank you so much.
For Raul, Matt, Liam and all those speaking out, the aim is to help others who might be secretly struggling. Many people choose not to talk about their losses, but it's about having the opportunity to, if and when needed. It's not the case for everyone, but most people who suffer a miscarriage will go on to have a healthy pregnancy. Sadly though, the more miscarriages you have, the more likely you are to have another loss. I am on another pregnancy journey. Apprehensive, hopeful, scared, excited. Will everything be okay this time? What will happen? It's been 2 months since we met Isabel as she had a scan at University Hospital Coventry after losing 2 previous pregnancies. And it's wonderful news.
It's the gift I've been asking, be able to hold my son in my arms, alive, so.
For those who can feel hopeless after a loss, what would you say to them more generally?
You need to take your time. Don't try to rush. Don't try to hear what society is telling you. Just get over it and do another one now. Just listen to you, listen to your partner. You have to trust in yourself.
It can feel like the vast majority of miscarriages are inevitable, but that's not the case. There are answers and treatments out there. We just need to properly research them to find them. Nobody knows what their pregnancy journey is going to look like, or whether they will be able to have children at all. I know how blessed I am in so many ways. But from my conversations with families, doctors, midwives, campaigners, researchers, it's clear that so many people feel very alone on this journey. Opening up though, being honest about the good, the bad, the joyous and the painful experiences of pregnancy loss, all of us can perhaps feel a little less alone.